Automated Splunk cluster creation allows combinations of Splunk instances to be configured as Splunk index clusters or Splunk search head clusters. This would otherwise be a manual process that can be time-consuming and error-prone. Before creating Splunk clusters, you need to make sure that all the Gemini appliances hosting the Splunk instances are provisioned and ready to be configured. The topology view under Cluster shows you the child nodes that are associated with the Gemini master and are available for Splunk configuration. If you haven't provisioned these nodes already, you can refer to the instructions or our video on bulk provisioning, showing how this is an extremely fast and simple process. Excellent, now let's get going. To access Splunk clustering, we're going to go ahead and click on the Splunk tab, then Cluster Management. This screen will show us both the currently existing clusters as well as the Gemini nodes available for configuration. Configuring search head and indexer clusters for Splunk is done in two parts. First, we have to assign server roles or personalities for each instance. Then we have to create the appropriate clusters based on these previously assigned instances. Let's go ahead and start by configuring each node and assigning it its particular server role. In our example here, we're going to have 3 search heads, 1 cluster master, and 3 indexers. Now let's go ahead and create clusters associated with the nodes we just assigned. First, we'll create an indexer cluster. We'll pick the nodes or sites to include, specify some configuration details, including replication and search factors, and then upload our desired Splunk version from a local binary. Finally, we'll then assign the eligible nodes to the indexer cluster and then start the deployment process. Now that the indexer cluster is ready, we can create the search head cluster. By selecting the cluster master node, we can automatically connect with the indexer cluster we just created. Notice that here we don't need to upload Splunk again. We can go ahead and use the previously uploaded version. The last step is to assign the search head nodes to the cluster and start the deployment process. And that's it, we have our 2 Splunk clusters deployed. Just to make sure, let's log into Splunk and make sure they're set up correctly. We'll launch the Splunk web interface for the Splunk cluster master. First, we can check our indexer cluster and see the 3 indexers, also known here as peers, attached to this cluster. Our 3 green check marks indicate that the cluster is working properly. Similarly, we can confirm the status of the search head cluster and the 4 search heads that are a part of it. And there you have it. Within a few minutes, we've deployed a fairly involved Splunk environment using Gemini Manager's automated cluster configuration.